Hey everybody, this is Mack Slaughter with Trust Technology Consultants, and welcome to a special edition of our Trust Tech Chat. I've got my friend Ken Lautzenheiser here from BCN and wanted to take a few minutes to do a little bit of an interview. We'll be talking to him about what his job is, what BCN is, what is an aggregator. I know we've talked about that in some of our previous chats, but this time we have an aggregator here. So, Ken, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon or evening or morning, everyone. My name is Ken Lautzenheiser. I'm a sales director, as Mac mentioned, at BCN. I'm based in Dallas, but I've had Trust as an account for 2 years now, and I love the relationship. And so, yeah, I've been in the industry for a little over 25 years, so really enjoy it, and I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
Thanks.
It's been a lot of fun working with you over the last couple of years. We've worked with BCN now for, I think, 4 or 5.
Okay.
We're a silver level partner, apparently.
You are.
So I'm told. I think I've got some plaque somewhere around here. We don't really focus on that, but one of the things that does gain us is kind of a premier access to resources and things like that, which ultimately trickle down to our customers. So why don't you just kind of start by telling us what is an aggregator?
Sure. So an aggregator, and some people refer to it as a broker, but an aggregator is a company that's got multiple relationships with direct sellers. Mm-hmm. So everything for everything from SD-WAN to broadband to DIA. And so a true aggregator's job is to go out on behalf of their customer or their partner and find the best solution for their needs, regardless of the carrier. Mm-hmm. So a good aggregator is agnostic, meaning they don't have a preference on who you use, right? So as you and I have worked in the past, if you say, I need somebody besides AT&T for diversity,
right?
We go everybody but AT&T, right? If it's not, then we try to find the best deal. We're not associated with everybody because not everyone meets, as you know, minimum requirements for quality and efficiency and stuff.
And that's most type of connectivity, not just fiber?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Everything we have multiple providers, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't have anything that only comes from a sole source. So our job is to, talk with you or your customers or both of you and find out what the requirements are. And honestly, not only for just today or next week or next month, but next year and for future. What we don't want to do is get involved with anything that has an end of life or technology is going away. So we try to think.
So you're not selling a lot of T1s?
T1s are kind of out.
Yeah.
and fax machines. Yeah,
yeah.
We don't do the fax. Yeah, we're kind of out of stock on those. But
yeah,
so, we do have those requests every once in a while. And the goal there is just to kind of explain to a customer who may not understand the benefit of going to fiber over a T1.
So I'll kind of steal the thunder a little bit,
Sure.
But let's talk about one of your go-forward strategies that helps a legacy type product like faxing.
Sure.
What are y'all doing for that these days?
So we have a product which a lot of aggregators do called POTS over LTE. Mm-hmm. And so POTS over LTE uses a wireless service in order to perform the function of an old POTS line. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they don't work anymore. A lot of people still have them. In fact, thousands of people have them. The issue is that the industry is getting away from those. And so the mandate of what you can charge and how often you can charge is going away. So we have clients who have had POTS lines forever, maybe being charged, $90 to $130 a month, and they're going to $750.
I was about to say I've seen some in the 7 to 8 range, like you just mentioned. It's pretty rough. So what is that technology doing? I mean, one of the biggest fights we've always had with the traditional POTS line, plain old telephone service, for those playing acronym bingo. The biggest thing that we've always hooked those up to are elevators and
Sure.
fire and burglar. We've always been told voice over IP cannot be added to those type of service. So what makes your solution different?
So the technology has been upgraded. To get your point, at some point, it could only be used for voice. It couldn't be used for fax or anything else. And so now we've got to the point where it is approved for 911, security, a whole kit and caboodle, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is not only on a 3-year term do we install for free, but our technicians actually stay on site and make sure the service works before they leave. So it's not something where
That's a novel idea, isn't it?
I know. Can you imagine? But yeah, I've had some people who have told me that, the guy installed and ran out the door before they could test it and then had to open a trouble ticket and stuff. So yeah, so we do that. And then our techs also take a picture of the work and send it to the customer and say, here's what I did.
Very nice.
Yeah. And so the other difference for the folks who don't know is most POTS over LTE providers have a sealed box. And by that, I mean, you can't get into it as a customer. You can't get into it as a tech. So you've got to call that vendor back, and they've got to basically remove that box from the wall and either replace it with a brand new box, which is a lot of downtime, or they have the special key and stuff to open it up. Ours is more of a chassis that you can open up, and you can replace any element within it without having to tear it off a wall.
That's
a lot
fantastic.
of downtime. Exactly right. So it's a differentiator that we have.
And that's kind of an interesting topic that's very common nowadays is the right to repair.
Right.
With a lot of manufacturers like a certain fruit-based phone company, they always are kind of one that has an issue with right to repair. And so you guys are kind of taking that approach to a solution for a customer, so you don't have to rip and replace the whole thing. You can replace a port or a card or power supply or anything like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we think it's as I tell my partners and folks I work with, it's about as sexy as a 2x4. But companies usually need three things, right? They have water, they've got electricity, and they've got a phone.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So, some people say, well, it's not broke, don't fix it. But what I tell people is make sure you have somebody on your quick dial that does POTS over LTE. Because when your line goes, like we mentioned, from 150 to 750, if you have two lines, you can round that out in your donut, a budget. But if you're a hospital or university, you've got hundreds or thousands of lines. The carriers that are doing that are not all the majors that we know.
Hey, everybody. We had a slight technology hiccup, but, we're used to that working in the technology.
Yeah, if you don't have trouble,
field.
you don't have services.
Nothing is foolproof.
Nope.
So we kind of left off the conversation. We had a great conversation.
We've been going for hours.
It was fantastic. Yeah, we've had lunch and all that stuff. Brought it in. Now,
that's right.
we left off. You were making the comment about a type of hospital organization that could have multiple POTS lines that could take a long time to convert. So I think you were talking about your program where you look at the bills side by side.
Right.
You start to convert them over as possible and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So for a handful of lines, it can be done pretty quickly. What I think we were talking about was the fact that the price notifications that people are getting from major carriers are immediate in nature, right? It's not, hey, in 6 months we're going to do this. It's 30 days, 60 days. So it's important for folks to have a plan, much like insurance, to cover that. So we work with our customers to do whatever rollout they want, right? They could say, we want to do all of them at the same time, which doesn't really mean all at the same time. It just means as fast as you can get to them. Other folks who have, even a smaller and extensive IT team aren't really willing to rock the ship that much in a very short time frame. So they may say, hey, let's do this amount of lines or circuits, whatever, this month, and then we'll do this many this month. And so, again, our project management team is assigned to that account. We also offer up weekly or bi-weekly phone calls to make sure we're all on the same page, because some of that stuff gets a little complicated. So you have to have local contact, you have access to the building or the hut, whatever the case may be. And we don't like to, interfere with the customer's business any more than we have to. So I think that communication and ability to work together with especially large opportunities like that is very important.
Awesome. The part where we were about to jump into was really talking about BCN, your history, what makes you unique in this space. One of the things we covered was the average tenure. So here's a question I don't even know. Sure. What does BCN stand for?
It used to be the initials of three guys who co-founded the company.
Okay.
And it just got shortened to BCN. Our original founder, Richard, his son now runs the company, and he's out of Morristown, New Jersey. And so, some people say, well, how in the world do you go from Morristown to Boca Raton? And the reason is he started off either working with or buying other agencies. And so we've had different offices around the country, but those two are the major ones. But yeah, so like I said, 31 years, average tenure I think is 14 years. Uniqueness of BCN is a couple things. One, we're still family owned, right? I've worked, and I'm sure people watching have too. If you work for a corporation that's got investors, they want returns, right?
Absolutely.
And they're willing to do a lot of different things that we don't to make those numbers work. And so, I think our retention rate is somewhere between 95 and 96%. So normally when people don't stick with BCN, immediately they go out of business or they sell their business, whatever. But we're in it for the long run with our customers, and our team really gets high accolades from responses that we get. We send a couple surveys a year, both to folks like yourself and then also to the customers, saying, hey, why did you do business with BCN? And the interesting thing, since I've been in the industry for so long, is it has nothing to do with price. It has nothing to do with the product. It's access to the teams that we need. It's the ease of doing business, and it's the responsiveness of those teams.
Absolutely.
Right? So you just can't buy that stuff, right? Either you do that or you don't. And so we'll do a single POTS line. I think one of our largest customers has 900 locations.
Wow.
And so I know some companies out there like, well, we don't bill so much money, we're not interested. We are interested because, we know the name, but if you didn't, someone, from an Exxon Mobil said, I want 2 POTS line. You said, that's not big enough. You have no clue, who you're dealing with.
So what is your typical ideal customer profile?
So we like to, if we could hand pick them, the idea is that our benefit to customers really comes into multi-site, multi-service type of companies. So they've got, 3, 5, 10, 900 locations. They need broadband, they need DIA, maybe they need SD-WAN, they need a 4G wireless backup. And in most cases, because of the carriers mostly being territorial, if you're spread out quite extensively, you're dealing with that many different people. And so, but again, we don't, we'll do a single site, single location opportunity, but, if our sweet spot is really multi-product, multi-site locations that need multiple services, we put them on one bill, give them one phone number to call, and just make their life easier.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So for us, what that's really meant is ease of troubleshooting, ease of billing. I would go as far as to say, a lot of times the IT director for an organization loves you guys from a simplicity of troubleshooting, but also, you don't hear this often, but a lot of the accounting departments love you guys too, because they're not having to jumble, 10 or 20 different suppliers across all their locations. It's one bill broken out by site,
Right.
And it makes it easier on the accounting team. So we try to formulate not only a technology goal, but a business-oriented goal as well. So
Absolutely.
if we help the IT team in their troubleshooting, things get resolved faster. If we help the accounting team, things get billed and paid for faster, and we're building efficiencies across multiple streams.
Absolutely.
It's not just a tech conversation.
No, yes.
It's a business conversation.
I had a customer one time who had 15 hospitals, and they basically said, you don't even have to do better on the price, but the fact of dealing with one person as opposed to 20 is, I think they qualified their bill or cost of $30 a bill. So their point is, I'm paying $600 a month to pay, so over 36 months. So if you can take that part away from it, now I'm only paying one bill for $30. I'm saving that much money, even if you just match the price.
Absolutely.
But to your point with the side-by-side, we always like to take that time to put their bill versus what we can offer. And then sometimes, we can save them money. They got a really good deal, and we don't argue that point. But sometimes, the guy that buys telecom is also buying toilet paper and paper clips, and he or she doesn't have time to shop around. So we do that for them, right? We come back and say, hey, here's a carrier that's going to help you out. They're going to save you money, and then we're going to put you in a better position by one bill, one point of contact, one monitoring of your service, and like you said, customers are worried about, drilling for oil or making widgets. They're not wanting to spend a lot of time on telecom. It should be working every day pretty seamlessly.
Well, in addition to that, I mean, obviously that is a huge value for your 900 site customers. But
Sure.
I think that's even a bigger value for the customers who only have 3 to 4 sites.
Absolutely.
Because it almost feels like it's expanded your resources, your IT team.
Absolutely.
If that customer has an IT team, they now can rely on your organization. If they don't, they can rely on your organization to, chase that down. One call. I mean,
Sure.
What's your average ring time when a customer calls in for a trouble ticket?
I want to say, I haven't looked lately, but I think the last time I checked, it was like 27 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, we're very responsive.
And that's the people in Boca Raton.
Boca Raton, exactly right.
So U.S. based calling support.
Yes.
That's huge.
Every employee is
Yeah.
W-2. The benefit of that obviously is but sometimes it's follow the sun, right? And when that time shift changes from this center to that center, there's a little bit of a gap and stuff like that. So the other thing we have, which we haven't talked about, is our back office, right? Mm-hmm. So customers can actually go into the back office and they can open a repair ticket, they can order new service, they can find out what the performance of their network is and stuff like that. So to your point, we offer those tools
for the customers
to
have those resources.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they can watch their own stuff, and then if they need special information, we can look into that and get it to them. So our intent, like you said, is just to be an extension, right? We're not trying to take anybody's place, but there isn't anybody who's got less work to do these days. It's more and more and more. So if we can help someone avoid hiring extra staff or driving an extra mile, that's our goal.
Absolutely. And anecdotally, we've heard from some of our customers that they will get notification from your team and your equipment before they get an outage notification from their equipment.
Sure.
Which is absolutely huge. To know that it's already identified, it's already being relayed to the underlying provider, those type of things are huge for an organization that's managing multiple sites that
Absolutely.
are ultimately business impacting.
Right. Yeah. Especially when it's most of that stuff is mission critical, right? If it's your Candy Crush circuit, you don't care. But there are a lot of people who've got Candy Crush circuits, right? It's point of sale. It's data download to the data center every night for their sales and stuff like that. So they can't afford
cameras.
Security cameras. Yeah, exactly correct. And firewalls. So they can't afford to have that service down and out for very long because it affects their business.
Speaking of outages, speaking of things like that, y'all have some big news to announce too about a new partnership with an SD-WAN provider.
We do. As I mentioned earlier, we've got multiple providers in every arena, product service that we offer. But yeah, Adaptive is a new SD-WAN provider. I think we did an announcement about a week ago. So they are in our portfolio, do a few things different than the current SD-WAN providers we have. And so, as I mentioned earlier, unless someone knows exactly what they want, we have an engineering team that'll work with their engineering team or with the customer. And we very often send out a questionnaire saying, what do you want this to look like? And then that helps us choose the right provider. But we're excited. And so we're always on the lookout for brand new providers who add value. Right? We don't want to add somebody who's just the 17th guy in the shop unless they've got something unique. But we feel that Adaptive is very unique, and they're a great partner for the folks they already work with, and we're excited. So we're looking forward to a great year with them. Yeah,
the slick you sent me last night. You have 4 SD-WAN providers now.
Correct.
So that's Big Leaf,
Cato. Well, actually 5. Cisco Meraki.
Yeah.
PepLink.
Oh,
and
PepLink,
now
yes.
Adaptive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 total.
So 5 total. So and we don't, like I said, we're agnostic. So when someone who's not as tech savvy says, well, I want SD-WAN. It's like saying I want ice cream. Well, what flavor do you want? What toppings do you want? What syrup do you want? So we're very investigative when we sell, because we want to make sure that what we give them is correct, right? The worst thing you can do, and I've had this happen in my career, not here, but people call back and say, I didn't want this. And I'm like, well, that's what you asked for. Well, so sometimes customers, with all due respect, don't know what they want. They just know what the end result is. So our goal is to figure out, okay, how do you get from here to there with what we have in our portfolio? And it's like baking a cake. You put in some flour and some eggs, and then that's the cake they want, but they don't know how to get there. So our attempt with the team that we have, and some fantastic people, like you said, with long tenures, who love this company and we're highly rated by our customers, is to make sure the customer's happy so that they don't worry about going elsewhere because we're doing the shopping for them.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like to hear it.
Thanks.
Well, I think we're kind of wrapping up on time. Is there anything you want to leave the audience to talk about, BCN or?
No, well, I mean, I would say, Mack and his team are fantastic. Like I said, I've had experience working with them 2 years, but even outside of, the tech industry, I tell people, and you know this, it's a huge industry, but a small world. Right?
It is,
so
absolutely.
When you do good things, you hear about people. When you do bad things, you hear about people. So you guys are great. We love working with you. And, and our goal really is just to understand what customers want, what they need, and help them get there the most cost-effective, efficient way. And hopefully we do that with a lot of people we work with.
Absolutely. Well, that's been our experience, and we look forward to many more years of that.
Absolutely.
But thank you, everybody, for joining this special edition of the Trust Tech Chat with our special guest, Ken Lautzenheiser with BCN.